I'm gonna just be truthfully honest with you. I don't see it. I don't see the appeal to it. Only thing I could trace it to is like this was a new kind of sound that we never heard anything like this in a way. Just as far as the energy, I'm pretty sure everyone heard rock and roll, and they wasn't adding anything new to me, but just that it sounded young and angst, and it sound very unpolished, and I think that's a part of its appeal. What's up, everyone? This is Tatum. Welcome back to another episode of Fuck This Review, where today, if you're familiar with my channel, I've been going down, quote unquote, this rock journey or classic rock journey or just classic albums in general that I never heard before, that they hold prestige in the music community. And I just want to see if they're as classic as, people say they are. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Ramones. It's always funny when I always say this, but it's always funny when the artist names the album after themselves, because I gotta say, and here's the Ramones. First thoughts. Going into this album, I never heard any of the Ramones music at all. With this one, doing my research and listening to it, I read that it was one of the first like punk rock making that genre. It was a black band out of Detroit. Pure Hell. Pure Hell was one of the first. I remember watching a documentary on them, and they were discussing how they were one of the first pioneers of punk rock. But that's neither here or there. First thoughts on this album. It is an album. No, seriously. First thoughts on this album. I'm gonna just be truthfully honest with you. I don't see it. I don't see the appeal to it. Only thing I could trace it to is like this was a new kind of sound that we never heard anything like this in a way. Just as far as the energy, I'm pretty sure everyone heard rock and roll, and they wasn't adding anything new to me, but just that it sounded young and angst, and it sound very unpolished, and I think that's a part of its appeal. But for me, man, for this album to only be 29 minutes, I swear it felt like an eternity. Like it felt like I was on this ride for so long. And fans out there, don't like shoot me down or anything. Just hear me out. I felt like a lot of the songs on here just sounded just like it sounded like they found a key and they said, "How many songs do you think we can make with?" I'm gonna say this. It sounds like a band. It sounds like a garage band, and this is not to throw any shots at them because they're already legends, and who the fuck am I? But it sounds like a garage band, just figuring out how to play. We got this one note, and we know that you're great at this. We know that you're great drumming at this BPM. You're great at playing the guitar at this BPM, and we're just gonna keep making the same songs. And I'm good at this pitch voice. A lot of the hooks sound the same. A lot of the songs sound the same. A lot of the production sounds exactly the same. I don't think the songs itself held any depth to them. For the most part, I know there is songs on here where they were talking about. I didn't even know that one of them was on drugs so bad at one point they were like turning tricks. But other than that, it was kind of just like it felt very immature. I'm gonna go through some of the records on here. I'm gonna talk about things that I did like about it, and obviously I'm gonna talk about the things I didn't like about it, and just give my overall take on the album. So if you made it this far, let's start the show. All right, so this album came out in 1976, excuse me. It was recorded in about like 2 weeks. I read the budget only for this album was like only a couple $1,000s, if that. They recorded it in Radio City Music Hall, which I thought was dope. The album starts with Blitzkrieg Bop. When that first came on, I was like, oh, I know this song. Like, I've been hearing this song forever. I know this song. So, hi, oh, let's go. I've been hearing that in every commercial since I was a pup. So that one stood out to me immediately, and that might have been the best song on this album, to be truthfully honest with you. When I first cut it on, I heard that, and I heard the guitars, and I was listening to it. I was like, okay, this is nice. The things that I hated in the long run was the things I loved on the first record. So I'm like, oh, this is dope. This is dope. They sound young. They sound, the lead singer voice wasn't something that I was like accustomed to, even though being from New York, and I think he's of German descent, if I'm not mistaken. The vocal didn't sound so much like New York to me, but what do I know? But it was a cool thing when I listened to it. I was like, oh, that's cool. I love how his voice is. I love the way the like everything's like 160 BPM. So I enjoyed that, just the upbeatness of it. But to have 12 songs, 29 minutes, it was kind of too much by the time I got to the end. I did enjoy the first record, which I'm pretty sure everybody does. It's one of the greatest songs, I would assume, of all time. Beat on the Brat. Okay, this is the thing that got me about this album. Beat on the Brat, Judy is a Punk. A lot of those have the same. I read that somewhere that one of the band members were living in a building or something like that, and I could be wrong, so correct me in the comments. The song was inspired by seeing a kid getting beat by his mom. Yeah. And then the second song kind of is a continuation of that story as well. Just that scenario. And I'm trying to put myself I'm trying to think, okay, in New York in the 1970s, you got the disco thing going on. You got the pop rock. You're coming out of the Beatles era. You're coming into like, it probably sounded so great this album didn't do well commercially, but it's like a cult classic and went on to become one of the greatest albums of all time. But I think that, appealing to a younger audience, the rebellious audience, just all those kids who were looking for something new, I think that's what this sound drove them to, right? Like everything is like it's like that kind of BPM that was just that vibe. And I could see being young and loving that, because the lyrics don't really have any meaning to them. Like, and I know they're gonna kill me in the comments. What do you mean? But if you look deeper into this song, trust me, I read the lyrics and I'm pretty sure it's a meaning behind everything. I'm not stupid. But for the most part, even reading it on paper is like a lot of the songs just were a hook, repeated, same thing repeated over, or verses just repeated over. Be truthfully honest, through the first half, it was just the same sound. And and somebody let me know what were their ages at this point, because it sounds like the songs like Sniffing Glue, which they said like I've read somewhere that was like, we don't sniff glue not anymore. I did that since I was a kid, kind of thing. It's just these immature kind of nuances weaved into it. Listen to Loudmouth and listen to I Don't Want to Go in the Basement, which I think was like a just to play on horror films and how, like, the victim always ran to like the basement, or to get away they always went to somewhere where the monster would get them. But Loudmouth and I Don't Want to Go in the Basement sound identical. Like they sound identical. Like they come on the same way. But one thing I did enjoy on Havana Affair, I did enjoy that because it's like this thing they do on the hook. I would assume it's like dun, and it's like this snare that hits, but it's not like the typical snare that they have throughout the record. It like this, like it's like this snare mixed with an electric guitar mixed with something that's just like a reverb that just vroom. And I love that part about it. If you know the record, I'll probably put it in here just so you can hear it. But that part I was like, okay, this is dope. By the time we got it, I was like, okay, at least they're adding something to the sound that they've been doing for 8 tracks already, So I did enjoy Havana Affair. And, the story is cool in there too. It was talking about a Cuban man working for the CIA to, better his life. When I first heard it before I read the lyrics, I was like, is he saying banana? And why does he keep saying picking bananas? And some of it was, and I'm going to just ask the fans out there, was this audible for you guys back in the 70s? I can imagine listening to one of a record player, and because it was hard for me to even understand the lyrics, like just listening to it now in 2021. So I can imagine how bad the quality was in the 70s. So how was it just a vibe? Like you just vibing and not, are they one of the bands that you just listen to for vibes and it's not really about the lyrical content? Let me know in the comments. Third is probably one of my favorites just because just of the backstory to it about being down bad and turning tricks, and it had more, I don't know, the story just felt better to me. Like that was one of the ones I was like, oh shit, I couldn't even, oh wow. Like as a boy turning tricks, that's crazy in New York City at the time, I can imagine. I do have to say, I did appreciate them giving, what was the song? I Wish I Was Your Boyfriend. I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. That it kind of resembles like an old 60s vibe kind of record. I want to be your boyfriend. Like they could have stripped that away and it could have easily just been an old record from the 60s, Motown record kind of thing. But I did enjoy that they kind of spruced up that kind of vibe of a record, you know what I mean? So I did appreciate that. Loudmouth was dope too. But after that, pretty much, I was pretty like, I don't want to walk around with you today, your love, tomorrow, the world. I don't know. It just didn't hit for me, man. Like, I did enjoy the Loudmouth. I did enjoy 53rd. I did enjoy the first record. Chainsaw was dope too. Chainsaw was dope too. I'm not even gonna hold you. That song was dope. But other than that, it just kind of just listening in 2021. It was just too much of the same sound. But let me get into my favorite songs. Best songs I'm gonna go with Blitzkrieg, Havana Affair, 53rd and 3rd. Worst song, Listen to My Heart. Best line, to be truthfully honest, I don't have one for this album. This is probably the first review I don't have a best line. It's just that it was no lyrical depth on here for me to pick a line that just stood out to me. It was kind of just mostly instrumental in a way. And all the tracks are like 1 minute and something, 2 minutes max. As far as a rating, fucks given out of 5, I'm gonna give it a 2.5. And that 0.5 is strictly just I'm believing the hype of the world saying and critics saying that this was an album that introduced punk rock to the world. But other than that, it was gonna get the lowest rating I ever gave an album to me. But let's wrap this up. In closing, when it comes to the Ramones, it just wasn't for me. I don't want to take anything away from the people who love this album and probably shaped a lot of youth at the time that it came out. But in 2021, I want to know, for the people who grew up with this album and loved this album in the 70s, 80s, or however age you were when you started listening to this album, listening to it in 2021, do you still like go back to it as like one of the classics? Because I'm looking at like Rolling Stones list, and the first one they had greatest albums, it was like 20 something, and then when they revised it, it moved to 40 something. I'm like, it's no way that it's 400 plus albums worse than this. I don't know. Like, if we're just going off the influence, that's cool. But if we're going off quality of music, it's hard for me to believe that there are people sitting there listening to this album. And maybe I'm just being like, maybe I just don't get it, and I'm cool with not getting it at all. I'm totally fine with that. But it is my obligation and duty to do these reviews and just give my honest take. So, yeah, just let me know in the comments. Not to convince me or anything, but let me know in the comments what some of your favorite records on here. Why is this record impactful and it's held as classic the way it is? And also let me know, are you still listening to this today? I'm down for the convo because I really want to know. I really want to know why this album is considered one of the greats. Because, it's literally 12 songs of the same song. All the songs sound like demos, unfinished, unpolished. Sound like it was recorded in a garage, and maybe that's the aesthetic they were going for. But for me, it sounds like a bunch of sounds. Let me stop being so mean. If you made it this far, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button, and let's just keep this conversation going. But as always, fuck this review. I'm Tatum. Peace.